March is not just another month. Right now, as you're watching this, tensions between superpowers are escalating faster than any point since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And the difference between now and then is that nobody's backing down. NATO's expanding. Russia's mobilizing. China's watching Taiwan like a hawk watches prey. And you're sitting there thinking it won't happen. That cooler heads will prevail, that someone will blink first. They won't. History doesn't care about your optimism. And when the first strike happens, when supply chains collapse overnight, when panic buying strips every shelf bare in 48 hours, you'll have exactly one chance to use what you already have. Because getting more won't be an option. Drop ready or denial in the comments right now. Because the next 20 items will determine whether you're a survivor or a statistic. And denial won't save you when the sirens start. Let me walk you through what actually happens in the first 72 hours of major conflict. It's not like the movies. There's no dramatic announcement, no time to prepare, no gentle slide into chaos. It's instantaneous. Markets crash within minutes. Banks freeze transactions to prevent runs. Gas stations run dry as panic buyers fill every container they own. Grocery stores become war zones as people fight over the last packages of rice and water. Power grids get targeted or overloaded and go dark. Cell networks collapse under traffic volume. And you, standing in your kitchen, realize that everything you thought you had time to do, you're now doing a world where nothing works and everyone's your competition. The people who make it through that initial shock aren't the ones with the most money or the best plans written down somewhere. They're the ones who stockpiled the right things in March, before anyone else took it seriously, before the rush, before scarcity became permanent. Here's what makes this different from every other preparedness video you've watched. I'm not selling you buckets of food with a 30-year shelf life that you'll never eat. I'm not pushing sponsored survival gear that looks tactical but breaks under real use. I'm giving you the 20 specific items that people who've lived through actual wars, actual societal collapse, actual extended grid-down scenarios have identified as the difference between making it and not making it. These aren't guesses. These aren't theories. These are patterns repeated across every modern conflict from Bosnia to Syria to Ukraine to Venezuela. The items change slightly based on climate and culture, but the categories stay the same. And if you understand the categories, you understand survival. Item number 1. And this will make sense once you hear the reasoning. Prescription medications, specifically a 90-day supply of anything you or your family members take regularly. Most people keep a 30-day supply, maybe less. They think they'll refill when they need it, because that's how it's always worked. In conflict, pharmacies close, supply chains break, and your blood pressure medication or insulin or thyroid pills become impossible to obtain. I'm not exaggerating. In Ukraine, diabetics died not from bombs, but from lack of insulin. People with treatable conditions died because they couldn't access medication that existed in warehouses but couldn't be distributed. Call your doctor today. Tell them you're traveling. Tell them you need an extended supply. Get it filled. Store it properly in a cool, dark, dry location. Check expiration dates. But understand that most medications retain effectiveness far past expiration if stored correctly. This isn't optional. This isn't overcautious. This is the first item because without it, nothing else matters. You can't survive conflict if you're dead from a preventable medical condition. But medications mean nothing if you can't access clean water, which brings us to item 2, water storage containers and purification supplies that go beyond what you think you need. Everyone knows water matters. Not everyone understands the volume required. 2 liters per person per day for drinking. Add another 2 for cooking, cleaning, hygiene. That's 4 liters per person per day minimum. For a family of 4, that's 16 liters daily. For 90 days, that's 1,440 liters. That's 380 gallons. You're not storing that much in bottles. You need food-grade water storage containers, specifically water brick or aquatainer-style stackable containers, enough to hold at least a 2-week supply per person, combined with purification methods, including filters like Sawyer Mini or Life Straw, chemical tablets like Aquamira, and bleach for large-scale treatment. Store water now while it's flowing from your tap. Rotate it every 6 months. And understand that water access is the first thing that breaks in conflict. Municipal systems get damaged, contaminated, or shut down deliberately. Wells become contested territory. Rivers become disease vectors. The people with water storage and purification capability are the people who survived the first month. Everyone else is trading everything they own for a single gallon, and there's not enough to go around. Now, you've got medication and water, which puts you ahead of 90% of people already. But here's where most preppers make a catastrophic mistake. They stockpile food that requires preparation, cooking, clean water for rehydration, freeze-dried meals, rice and beans, pasta, all of it useless if you don't have item 3, multiple reliable fire-starting methods and backup fuel sources that work in any condition. You need a minimum of 3 different fire-starting systems stored in 3 different locations. Ferro rods at work when wet, waterproof matches in sealed containers, quality lighters wrapped in tape to protect the ignition, storm-proof matches that burn in wind and rain, magnesium bars for emergency situations, and you need fuel sources that don't require chopping wood or finding dry tinder. Store fat wood, which is pine wood saturated with resin that lights even when wet. Store hexamine fuel tablets. Store petroleum jelly-soaked cotton balls in film canisters. Store emergency fire logs. Because in conflict zones, venturing outside to gather firewood means exposure to snipers, drones, patrols, desperate people who'll kill you for your supplies. Fire capability kept indoors, maintained indefinitely, used efficiently. That's survival. That's warmth, cooking, water purification, psychological comfort, and medical sterilization, all from one capability. Pause here. We've covered medications that keep you alive, water that sustains you, and fire that makes everything else possible. Most people quit right here, right before the items that actually determine long-term survival. Comment, still here, if you're committed to all 20 items. What's coming next is worth more than everything combined. Item 4 is going to surprise you because it's not food, it's not gear, it's shelf-stable fats and oils in quantities that seem excessive until you understand human biology. Olive oil, coconut oil, ghee, lard, anything with high caloric density and long shelf life. Store gallons of it. Here's why. In survival situations, your body burns calories at rates you can't imagine. Stress, cold, physical labor, immune system fighting off illness, all of it requires energy. And energy comes from calories, and the most calorie-dense food source is fat. 9 calories per gram compared to 4 for carbohydrates and protein. Fat is survival fuel. Fat keeps you warm. Fat satisfies hunger longer. Fat makes bland food palatable, so you'll actually eat it consistently. And fat is what disappears first in conflict. Fresh meat spoils. Butter requires refrigeration. Cooking oils get consumed or hoarded immediately. The people who stored fats in March are the people still maintaining body weight in December. The people who didn't are the ones losing muscle mass, losing cognitive function, losing immune response, dying from infections their bodies would have fought off if they had adequate nutrition. Store fats. Store them in dark glass bottles or food-grade plastic. Keep them cool. Rotate them. Don't question this until you're 30 days into rationing, and you realize that spoonful of coconut oil is the only thing keeping you functional. But fat calories mean nothing if you can't digest them if illness takes you down, which brings us to item 5, a comprehensive medical kit that goes beyond Band-Aids and includes antibiotics, pain management, wound care supplies, and diagnostic tools most people never consider. I'm talking about a kit that can handle everything from minor cuts to major trauma, to infections to chronic illness management. You need Israeli bandages for hemorrhage control. You need quick clot or C-locks for severe bleeding. You need irrigation syringes and sterile saline for wound cleaning. You need suture kits and surgical glue. You need antibiotics, and yes, I mean fish antibiotics like fish moxamoxicillin and fish flexcephalexin, because when hospitals are inaccessible and infections are spreading, these become life-saving tools. You need pain management beyond aspirin, which means tramadol if you can get it legally, or at minimum a stockpile of maximum-strength ibuprofen and acetaminophen. You need antidiarrheals like Imodium because in conflict zones, gastrointestinal illness kills as surely as bullets. You need antifungals, antivirals, antihistamines, hydrocortisone cream, burn gel, dental emergency supplies, including temporary filling material and clove oil. And you need a blood pressure cuff, a thermometer, a pulse oximeter, basic diagnostic tools that tell you what's wrong so you can treat it appropriately. What I'm about to say will anger the medical establishment, will anger pharmacists, will anger everyone who profits from your dependence on their systems. If you're ready for uncomfortable truth they don't want you to know, smash like now. Hit 10,000 likes and I release the band follow-up video on field medicine techniques. Item 6, and this is where we shift from immediate survival to sustained resilience. Heirloom seeds and gardening supplies that let you produce food beyond your stockpile time frame. Every stockpile ends eventually. 3 months, 6 months, a year if you're exceptional. Then what? Then you need production capability. You need seeds that are open-pollinated, non-GMO, non-hybrid, meaning you can save seeds from your harvest and plant again next season. Companies like Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds or Seed Savers Exchange. You need variety. Tomatoes, peppers, squash, beans, peas, lettuce, herbs, root vegetables that grow in your specific climate zone. You need them stored in a cool, dry, dark location in sealed containers with silica gel packets to prevent moisture damage. And you need the knowledge to actually use them, which means starting a garden now. In March, learning through failure, while failure just means a trip to the grocery store instead of starvation. Learn crop rotation, companion planting, soil amendment, pest control without chemicals you won't have access to, season extension techniques, preservation methods. Because in conflict, the person who can grow food becomes invaluable to community. You're not just feeding yourself, you're creating surplus for trade, building alliances, establishing your role in whatever social structure emerges from chaos. But gardens take months to produce, which brings us to item 7. Calorie-dense survival foods that require zero preparation and last indefinitely, not freeze-dried meals, not MREs. I'm talking about peanut butter, honey, hardtack, pemmican, dried fruits, nuts, protein bars, anything you can eat straight from the package with no water, no cooking, no preparation. Stored in quantity. These are your emergency calories when you can't cook, when you're on the move, when you need energy immediately. Peanut butter provides protein, fat, and calories in a shelf-stable package that lasts years. Honey never spoils, provides instant energy, has antimicrobial properties for wound treatment. Hardtack, which is a simple flour, water, salt biscuit baked until rock hard, lasts decades and provides bulk carbohydrates. Pemmican, which is dried meat mixed with rendered fat, is what indigenous peoples use to survive winters and what Arctic explorers relied on. Make it yourself or buy it. Store pounds of it. This is survival food that actually works. Real talk. How many of you have stockpiled food you've never actually eaten? Food you're not sure you can even prepare in a real emergency? Drop guilty in comments. You're not alone. We're building a community that prioritizes practical readiness over fantasy gear. Hit subscribe. Be here when it matters most. Item 8 is going to seem obvious, but most people get it completely wrong. Batteries and alternative power sources that match your actual devices and needs. Everyone buys batteries. Not everyone buys the right ones in the right quantities with the right storage methods. Check every device you own that requires batteries. Flashlights, radios, medical devices, tools, everything. Make a list of what sizes you need. Then buy a 10-year supply, which sounds insane until you realize batteries in conflict become currency. Store alkaline battery for long-term storage, rechargeable NIMH batteries for high-drain devices, and lithium batteries for extreme temperatures. Store them in original packaging in a cool, dry location. Never store them in devices because they'll corrode the contacts. And add alternative power sources. Solar chargers that work without grid connection. Hand crank devices that never run out. USB battery banks pre-charged and maintained. Power is what separates modern humans from our ancestors. Lose power and you lose communication, lighting, information access, entertainment that maintains sanity. Store power capacity like your life depends on it, because it does. But power means nothing if you can't defend what you have, which brings us to item 9, and I'm going to be careful with wording here, because platforms have rules. You need defensive capability appropriate to the level of societal breakdown you're preparing for. In total collapse, rule of law disappears. Police aren't coming. Military is deployed or dissolved. Protection is your responsibility. I'm not specifying exact items because I value this channel staying live, but you understand what I'm saying. You need tools, training, and the mindset to use them when necessary. Most people are good, but desperation makes good people do terrible things, and bad people do worse when consequences vanish. Every modern conflict proves this. Bosnia, Syria, Venezuela, Somalia, everywhere that order breaks down, violence fills a vacuum. The people who survive are the people who can protect themselves, their families, and their resources from those who didn't prepare and now want to take instead of starve. Get trained. Get legal tools for your jurisdiction. Practice until competence becomes reflex. Store supplies for those tools. This isn't fear-mongering. This is historical pattern recognition. You can ignore it if you want, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring it. Coming up, the item that military preppers know about but never discuss publicly. Skip ahead, and you'll miss the context that makes it essential. Drop military secrets if you're impatient, but understanding why matters as much as what. Item 10 ties everything together in ways you haven't considered. Salt in bulk quantities that seem absurd until you understand its multiplier effects. Not table salt. Pure sodium chloride, uniodized, stored in food-grade buckets with gamma seal lids. 50 to 100 pounds minimum. Salt preserves meat, fish, vegetables, anything you hunt, catch, or harvest. Salt is required for human survival, lost through sweat and waste, irreplaceable through any other source. Salt treats wounds, creates saline solution, manages infection. Salt is currency in every collapsed economy throughout history because everyone needs it and it never expires. Buy it now while it costs nothing. In conflict, people trade anything for salt. It's lightweight relative to value, infinitely storable, universally recognized. This is well preservation that works when currency fails. Item 11 is communication capability beyond your cell phone. Ham radio equipment with license, emergency weather radios, long-range walkie-talkies, and physical maps of your region. When grid goes down, when cell towers fail, when internet disappears, communication becomes the difference between isolation and information. Ham radio lets you receive emergency broadcasts, connect with distant contacts, coordinate with community. Get your license now. Practice now. Understand frequencies and protocols before you need them. Weather radios with hand crank power give you no alerts about conditions, threats, safe zones. Long-range walkie-talkies, actual quality ones, not toy versions, let you communicate with family members or group members up to several miles. And physical maps, topographical maps of your area, surrounding areas, escape routes, water sources. Because GPS fails, phones die, and you need navigation capability that works without technology. Item 12. Manual tools that don't require power, fuel, or replacement parts. Hand saws, axes, shovels, hammers, screwdrivers, wrenches, pliers. Every tool you'd find in a grandfather's garage from the 1940s before power tools took over. These tools never stop working. A quality hand saw cuts lumber indefinitely. A forged axe splits firewood forever. Manual drills bore holes without electricity. These tools give you construction capability, repair capability, firewood processing, and trade value because most people under 40 have never used them and don't know how. By quality, not hardware store garbage. Companies like Gransfors Bruks for axes, Silky for saws, Stanley for hand tools. Store them properly. Learn to sharpen and maintain them. Practice using them now, while mistakes just mean sore muscles instead of failed critical repairs. If you understood why manual tools matter more than power tools in collapse scenarios, you're smarter than 95% of preppers. But can you explain why an axe beats a chainsaw? Comment your answer. I reply to the most accurate ones. Item 13 is psychological survival, which means entertainment, education, and morale maintenance supplies. Books, games, musical instruments, art supplies, anything that keeps your mind occupied and your spirit intact during extended crisis. This sounds frivolous until you're 2 months into lockdown with no power, no internet, no external stimulation, and you're staring at walls going slowly insane. Humans aren't built for prolonged stress without relief. We need distraction, engagement, joy, purpose beyond mere survival. Store physical books, fiction and nonfiction, enough to reread multiple times. Store board games, card games, dice games. Store notebooks and pens for writing, drawing, planning. Store musical instruments, if anyone plays. Store toys for children because traumatized kids become traumatized adults, and maintaining some normalcy protects their psychological development. This isn't luxury. It's necessity disguised as comfort. Item 14. Hygiene supplies in quantities that last months, not weeks. Soap, shampoo, toothpaste, toilet paper, feminine hygiene products, diapers if needed, everything required to maintain cleanliness when supply chains are broken. Hygiene prevents illness. Disease kills more people in war zones and combat. Dysentery, cholera, typhoid, all preventable with basic sanitation. Store bulk soap, both bar soap and liquid. Store toothpaste and toothbrushes, or make your own toothpaste from baking soda. Store toilet paper, lots of it, or alternative systems like bidets or cloth wipes you can wash. Store feminine products or menstrual cups that last years. Store diapers or cloth diaper systems. Store hand sanitizer and disinfectant. Cleanliness is survival. Item 15. Cooking equipment that works without modern utilities. Cast iron skillets and Dutch ovens that work on open fire, gas stove, or improvised heat sources. Rocket stoves that burn twigs efficiently. Alcohol stove for indoor use. Propane camp stoves with fuel bottles stored safely. Thermal cookers that cook food using retained heat without fuel. You need cooking capability that doesn't depend on electric stoves, microwaves, or continuous gas supply. Cast iron lasts generations, distributes heat evenly, can go directly in fire. Learn to use it now. Season it properly. Practice cooking over fire. But cooking equipment means nothing if you don't have item 16. Shelf-stable proteins beyond beans, specifically canned meats, fish, and protein powders that provide complete amino acids. Your body needs protein to maintain muscle, heal wounds, support immune function. Beans provide protein but lack complete amino acid profiles without combining multiple plant sources. Canned meats like chicken, beef, pork, and especially fish like tuna, salmon. Sardines provide complete protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and critical micronutrients. Store cases of it. Protein powder, specifically whey or pea protein. Stores for years in sealed containers. Mixes with water. Provides concentrated protein when food is scarce. This is body maintenance that keeps you functional instead of wasting away. Item 17 is trade goods, specifically items that hold value when currency fails. Alcohol, tobacco, coffee, chocolate. Ammunition if legal in your area. Vitamins, over-the-counter medications, batteries, lighters, anything people want but can't get. You're not stockpiling these for yourself necessarily. You're stockpiling them for barter. In every modern collapse, informal economies emerge where goods trade for goods. The people with trade items are the people who can acquire what they need even when their own stockpiles have gaps. Cheap vodka trades for anything. Cigarettes become currency. Coffee is psychological necessity for addicts who will trade valuables for a single cup. Store trade goods sealed, stored separately from your main supplies, portioned into small units for easy trading. This is economic survival, when money becomes worthless paper. Item 18. Repair supplies and fasteners that let you fix anything. Duct tape, Gorilla Tape, zip ties, paracord, wire, solder, epoxy, super glue, screws, nails, bolts, washers, nuts, rope, bungee cords, tarps, plastic sheeting. Anything that holds things together or covers things. In extended crisis, everything breaks. Your shelter develops leaks. Your equipment fails. Your containers crack. Your clothing tears. The ability to repair determines whether you maintain capabilities or watch them degrade into uselessness. Store variety packs of fasteners. Store multiple rolls of quality tape. Store paracord by the 100-foot spool. Store tarps in multiple sizes. This is a category people skip because it's boring, then regret desperately when they can't fix critical failures. Item 19. Documentation and information access, specifically printed reference materials covering medical treatment, wild edible plants, construction techniques, mechanical repair, food preservation, and any specialized knowledge relevant to your situation. When internet is gone, when experts are unavailable, when you're facing a problem you've never encountered, printed reference materials become invaluable. The SAS Survival Handbook, where there is no doctor, where there is no dentist, Foxfire series, military field manuals, any comprehensive guide to self-sufficiency. Store them in waterproof containers. Read them before crisis. Mark important sections. These books represent thousands of years of accumulated human knowledge, available when you need it most. And finally, Item 20, the item that separates short-term survivors from long-term rebuilders. Community connections and mutual aid networks established before crisis begins. You cannot survive alone. Lone wolf preppers die. Every historical example proves it. You need people you trust, people with complementary skills, people you've built relationships with during normal times. A nurse, a mechanic, a carpenter, a gardener, a teacher, someone with military training, someone with ham radio expertise, a diverse group with overlapping capabilities and shared values. Build these relationships now through community involvement, through local preparedness groups, through shared interests. When crisis hits, you have a network instead of isolation. You have mutual defense, skill sharing, resource trading, psychological support, collaborative problem solving. This isn't an item you buy, it's a foundation you build, and it's worth more than all 19 previous items combined. Let me be absolutely clear about something. Nothing I've told you guarantees survival. War is chaos. Conflict is unpredictable. People with perfect preparation die from random events beyond their control. But what you have now is significantly better odds than 99% of people. You understand the 20 categories that matter most. You understand why each item multiplies survival capacity. You understand that preparation isn't about hoarding. It's about capability, resilience, adaptability. You now have the knowledge that transforms anxiety into agency, that turns fear into focused action, that makes you someone who doesn't just survive crisis, but helps others survive it too. Honest question. What's the one item you're stockpiling this week in March? Comment below. I read every single one, and I'll tell you if you're prioritizing correctly. Think I'm wrong about World War III being imminent? Think I'm fear-mongering? Good. Drop your reasoning. Best comment gets pinned and a full response. Because I'm not here to create an echo chamber. I'm here to build a community that thinks critically about real threats. If this saved you from being caught unprepared, share it with one person who needs this information. Not for me, not for algorithm, for them. They'll thank you when supply chains collapse, and they're ready because you cared enough to share. Hit subscribe and smash the bell because your survival depends on continuous information access. And I release content that mainstream channels won't touch because they don't want you actually prepared. They want you dependent. Stay informed, stay capable, or stay a victim of circumstances you saw coming. Your choice. March is your window. Use it.